Welcome to medieval feudalism in Europe. This presentation is going to discuss the characteristics and features of feudalism by defining key terms, describing the relationship between lord and vassal, and discussing how feudalism varied across Europe as well as its evolution over time. Before we begin, let's first define some terms that are important to understand. First, fief, or a gift of land. You could say this served the same purpose as currency back then. Vassal, or the nobleman who received land from another nobleman in exchange for service. Homage, or the ceremony in which an individual becomes the man of a lord. Some other terms that may be important to know are duke and count, as these were titles of the highest noblemen under the king. Now that we've got a better understanding of some of the components of feudalism, let's look now at the relationship between lord and vassal. The relationship starts with a lord and a fief. This lord will gift land to anyone who is willing to serve him, and that someone is a vassal. Typically, when a fief was given, the expectation was a commitment to military support and protection. A man cannot simply claim to be a vassal, but must participate in a formal and symbolic ceremony called a commendation ceremony. This commendation ceremony is two parts. The first part is the homage, where the lord and vassal officially enter into a contract. The vassal agrees to serve the lord at his command, and the lord agrees to protect the vassal from external forces. In some instances, the ceremony would require the vassal to kneel before the lord with his hands clasped and close to his chest as if praying. The lord would stand over him, grab his hands in his own, and raise him up to be his new man. After this act of homage, a pledge of fealty by the vassal is necessary. The pledge of fealty was essentially an oath to this lord from his vassal. And this relationship between lord and vassals served as a major role in the political and social structure of the feudal system. Although some parts of Europe were practicing this more nobler form of feudalism, other parts displayed a different side of feudalism. Oftentimes, feudalism was used as and is spread through force. With its roots in the Frankish kingdom, feudalism eventually spread to Spain, Italy, and Germany. Within the Frankish kingdom, feudalism started around 987 AD and lasted up until the 18th century. Although feudalism started with the Capetians family, Charlemagne is best known for establishing a functioning and efficient form of feudalism that served him well. Meanwhile, in the Germanic kingdom, a slightly different form of feudalism was taking place. The Germanic kingdom was heavily influenced by Roman and Frankish traditions. The Frankish traditions allowed the Germanic kingdom to enjoy long lines of kings or other bloodlines that allowed certain men or families to be in power for extended periods of time. On the other hand, the Romans' influence was that of the Roman Church. Germanic feudalism involved integrating members of the Roman Church into their administrations. Thus, the Church served in many primary roles throughout many Germanic states. Other parts of Europe didn't have the same approach to feudalism as the first two did. Italy, for example, was a significant trading post at the center of that world. After the fall of the Roman Empire came the rise of humanism. Soon the educated middle class became interested in individual achievement and emphasized life in this world over life in the next. People were more encouraged to excel in a wide range of fields, thus affecting the success of feudalism over time. Spain was going through its own troubles around this time. Medieval Spain became a battlefield between Muslims and Christians. For 700 years, countless wars, battles, and skirmishes led to independence from the Moors and the successful conclusion of the Reconquista. After the Reconquista and much colonization, Spain began to set up its own hierarchy, as you can see in the image to the right. Now that we've gone over some key definitions, described the relationship between lord and vassal, and discussed how feudalism varied across Europe, we will now cover the evolution of feudalism. Early feudalism witnessed an overall decline of royal power throughout the region. This declination of power led to more independent and consolidated communities. With the Roman fighting force no longer protecting the people, they began to look for protection elsewhere. This new protection came from fighting men with the resources to protect. Soon, most of these fighting men established a system wherein fiefs would be exchanged for service of loyalty, leading to a new hierarchy within the community. Soon, a dominant military class was born, the knight. But the knights weren't the only ones on the battlefield. Members of the church also participated in homage, but unlike the knights, the clergymen had different options. They could either choose to serve on an advisory board, or they could fight in a battle. And lastly, after the Roman Empire collapsed, so too crashed Roman law and order. This diffusion of common law made the new process of law and order extremely complex. For this reason, law and order was generally in accordance with the highest official in the feudal pyramid. Towards the middle and latter centuries of feudalistic Europe, things started to change. The more time went on, the more the feudalistic ideology came under attack. People began to migrate to bigger communities until eventually those communities became large city centers. Large city centers now had a lot of power and influence, so much so that they could impose their own societal ideologies on others. Eventually, money overtook military obligation and fiefs became hereditary. This breakdown of feudalism meant the personal link between the lord and the vassal deteriorated into near nothing. In respect to political and societal establishments, the English and Frankish kingdoms went more the direction of monarchy, while the Germanic kingdoms could not maintain the feudal pyramid, resulting in most of the fiefs becoming independent. In conclusion, feudalism had a direct correlation to the collapse of the Roman Empire. No Romans meant no protection, resulting in an eventual lord and vassal relationship. It is important to remember that throughout that feudalism was not standard across the board, as it varied in different regions of feudalistic Europe. And like most political or social systems, feudalism eventually deteriorated, but not into nothing. In fact, feudalism served as the foundation of some of the most well-known political or societal establishments we know today. Feudalism is an important part of our history as Western civilization. Thank you for your time.